Richard Mitchell, reviews editor, Joystiq.com. I'm here with Nick-Konkle, and I want to say your title, but I know I'm going to get it wrong. So what do you do for Bethesda?
I'm the lead gameplay designer at ZenimaX-online.
ZeniMax.
I'm in charge of combat, movement, controls, everything in the game sort of related to the player's interaction with the world.
Which I would say is probably a pretty big task.
It's definitely a part of the game, yes, that is significant.
So actually one of the first questions I have is the visuals for the game. Now obviously Elder Scrolls Online, or Elder Scrolls in general, has sort of an aesthetic that people are kind of used to, and you see a lot of it in what you've shown today, and especially in the world itself. I think the character design seems a little bit more svelte, if that's fair to say. I'm just curious, how do you feel about the visual design? How did you approach it, or how was it approached in the game in general?
Well, there's, I guess, a few different things, right? Certainly in terms of the art style, it's very different by province, right? And I think in the videos you can see that very much, right? And that's sort of true of the provinces of the various games as well. Morrowind has this very alien mushroom feel, and Skyrim in our game looks very much like the snowy sort of, peaks and wilderness that you're sort of used to, right? So I think in terms of an environment, every province really has its own look, but we definitely aim for the realistic, for the cool, right? I think in terms of character design, there's I certainly can't speak expertly to that because I'm not the art director, but I know that there's a factor in play, which is there's large-scale battles, and you would like to be able to recognize the races in a large-scale battle, and so sometimes I think their sort of proportions are pushed, right? The orc is as sort of big and burly as he is, so that he's, it's possible to recognize him, and also
you want them to be like distinctive from a distance.
Sure. But like I said, I'm no expert in the field of art, other than I think it looks amazing, and I'm really excited about it.
Well, moving into sort of your field with the combat design and all of that, obviously it's an MMO, and there's a lot of Elder Scrolls players who maybe aren't familiar with this at all, with this genre of entertainment. And they're going to see this game and they're going to be interested in it. So how do you design this so that people who maybe never played an MMO in their life and they see Elder Scrolls on the box and they're like, I want to try that, I love Elder Scrolls. I mean, how do you speak to those players?
From the very beginning, we didn't set out to make a really big MMO, standard style, great MMO, nor did we set out to make a Skyrim clone, right, and just put it online. We set out to make a great game. That was always what we tried to do from the very get-go, something that anyone could sit down and play and have fun with. So we don't really attempt to just have the standard MMO controls and abilities and rotations that you're used to, just like we sort of didn't go for Skyrim's combat, which I think involves pausing more than we could actually do in an MMO, which is none. So I think we definitely, from the beginning, we knew we wanted to make something that was its own, that was super fun when we played it, and responsive, tactile, and that was what we felt like we did. It's really exciting.
So looking at the demonstration today, you've got sort of the action bar at the bottom, but there's only maybe 6 skills down there, I think. Whereas you look at some people's customizations for other MMOs and they'll have 50 buttons on screen. So how do you approach the combat design from that perspective? You said it's not like a bog standard MMO, so what's different?
Well, let's talk about that. So the hotbar, right, or whatever you want to call it these days, the control scheme, right? There's a few different things on it. The first 2 come from your weapon, right? So any class in our game can use any weapon, right? It doesn't matter who you are, right? You're allowed to use them all, and then you get good with them, right? Very much a part of the Elder Scrolls franchise. So you get to determine what fills those slots sort of by what weapon you use, right? So if I'm a mage type character, right, I have a bunch of spells in there, and I'm like, you know what, I really just want to pick up a bow and be sort of a hybrid of a guy who uses archery and throw spells. It works, and it's good, right? Or if you're like, I want to pick up a 2-handed axe and go start cleaving some people, right? And I can pick spells that'll let me sort of move into fights really fast. That works too, right? We don't sort of determine how you play the game for you, right? We let you figure that out, right? So the first 2 come from your weapon, right? The next 3 really come from your class, right? What you've determined. Now, each class has a whole variety of options available. You have way more than just those 3 abilities, but you sort of have to pick the loadout that really supports the weapon and the playstyle you want to make. So if you want to make that teleport axe-wielding mage, which we've done and it's fun, right? That you can do that. You just pick the spells that sort of, you probably want to pick something a little more defensive so you can survive in the fight. And then that last slot is also from your class, but it's the ultimate. It's super powerful, but you have to build up to use it, and you sort of build up by competing in combat normally, right? It's definitely a more action-y style of delivering the game to you, right? You pick this small set of things, and you don't just execute a rotation of moves for maximum damage, right? You look and try and build a character and have a tactical, sort of style that you want to play with, and you respond to what everyone's doing. And then in addition to those 6 moves, everyone has this base set of things you can do, sprinting, crouching, and blocking, right? And you can always do that no matter your loadout. And so you have basically tools available to you that the entire combat sort of revolves around, and then you modify that based on your class, your weapon.
You talked in the presentation about, or it was said in the presentation, talking about you want to reward people for working together. Mm-hmm. And while you have the instance dungeons and things like that, you also have just the ability that if you see someone and they're struggling, you can just go help them. You don't have to party up with them or join a quest. You just help them out.
Full credit. Loot will drop for you, experience, it's all shared, all max, right? There's only rewards for working with friends, no penalties.
So if you could just talk a little bit about, like, is there a party system? Do you party up with people, or do you just see people, you help them? I mean, how many different ways can you interact with other people?
You absolutely can form a group or a guild or whatever sort of social mechanisms you would expect to be able to find. The key is, a lot of times those things in MMOs, especially in sort of an older generation MMOs, are required, right? And that isn't the case in our game, right? In our game, it's enough to just be in the same alliance as a person, right? And so the synergy moves, which I think were sort of demonstrated in the video, right? I don't have to be in your party, right? If you're a mage and you throw down a firestorm, and I'm a warrior and I run in there and I want to make the Inferno Cyclone, I can do it. We don't have to be in a group in advance, right? And indeed, you can help your friend that way sometimes. You see he's in trouble, he lays on a firestorm, hoping that you'll come to save him, and then you do. And then maybe you make a group afterwards.
Well, talking about those group skills or the ability to complement somebody else's skills, I mean, a lot of these people out here aren't going to see what I got to see today. So, you lay down this firestorm and you spin your sword in there as a warrior and you launch fireballs in other directions. What other kinds of skills can you combine to do different things?
Yeah, there's a whole set of them for sure. I mean, and it's definitely one of the exciting things about our combat is that even though you have this sort of limited loadout of things that you must choose, there's still a whole breadth of things possible depending on who you're working with, what weapon you're using, and so on and so forth. And so one of these is the synergy things that we're talking about right now. The way it basically works is I can put an ability which, when you stand in that area or next to me, or if I just grant it to you exactly, gives you the opportunity to quickly use something that is sort of an enhancement to the ability. The ability itself was strong on its own, right? There's nothing wrong with firestorming a bunch of guys, right? But if together we use it, right, it'll be more powerful than the original ability, right? I can shoot out a quick burst of fireballs, hit people further, and also you sort of get full rewards for doing that, so there's really no reason not to do it. It's just kind of this cool tactical thing that developed in sort of in play. And then I really like the way it sort of enhanced our PvP, I would say, right? We made these abilities because we felt like it was really cool for people to work together, and that was just a fun sort of fantasy. But what happened in PvP battles, we discovered, was it allowed people who had those abilities to sort of control the battlefield, right? Because I'll put down a synergy opportunity in a particular area where I want people to be, and people, they want to do that Inferno Cyclone, and they'll stop whatever they're doing mid-swing, and they'll run there and do it. And because that, you can really, lay that down, and then the opposing team can throw down their counter ability, which has a synergy opportunity to remove that, right? And it just creates this cool flow and sort of space in the battle that we really.
You have cooperative play not because it's required or anything like that. It's just because someone sees the opportunity and that's fun to do. I'm going to run and go do that.
Totally evolved naturally. It definitely was fun to see that happen. The first time one of those things went down and everyone just broke off and ran to go do it, and it was cool.
I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about the PvP. So you have just massive groups of people sort of fighting over Cyrodiil. And I guess at some point you get the big chair. I mean, what's the end game there?
Yeah, sure. So first off, we're not going into too much specifics about the system right now, but I can tell you some of the general philosophies, and you've sort of alluded to them, right? The thing that really sets this PvP system apart is scale. You will get the largest battles that have ever been in an MMO, right? And we've had those. We've had tests where, and you've seen some of them in the video, where 200 people are fighting in one space, and it's so incredible, right? There is so much action when that's occurring. It does have sort of this persistent control game associated with it, which you're alluding to, and the winner of any given moment, right, could potentially, their alliance could potentially crown an emperor of out of the players. So we'll go with that's the answer right now.
Elder Scrolls players who've never touched an MMO before in their life, and they see this, and they know it's an Elder Scrolls game, and they want to try it out. Maybe they're worried about it. I mean, what do you tell those people? What makes them want to jump into something like this?
And I don't think it's just Elder Scrolls players too, right? The game's there for you. It's the world you know, it's the art you love, it's the races you know, it's the questing model you're familiar with, but more importantly to that, it's a game that we just tried to make really awesome and fun, right? It's usable, it's quick to play, the response, you know, the combat, the controls are tactile and responsive. It isn't your standard latency-ridden, we made all these decisions because it's an MMO. The technology is past that now. And what it is now is something that you can pick up and play if you're familiar with MMOs, if you're familiar with Skyrim, if you don't play either of those games, right? It's a game that is its own control scheme, and it's sort of what we feel is a new evolution of MMOs where they move towards the technology that now supports it.
Hey, thanks so much for taking the time to talk with me. I appreciate it. It's Elder Scrolls Online 2013.
2013. ElderScrollsOnline.com if you want more info.